I've had the DJI Ronin 4D for over a year now. When DJI announced the 4D, every filmmaker went gaga over this. But watching videos online and actually holding the camera are two different experiences. Side note, what really caught my attention is knowing that they used the 4D in A24's Civil War, and then again a few months later on Netflix's Adolescence. If you haven't watched those, please do so. They are remarkable films. But before I get into what I like and what I don't like about this camera, I gotta give it to you straight. Buying a better camera, or a camera in general, does not make you a better filmmaker. But when you do find gear that you actually love using, it makes your process 10 times easier. So my first shoot with the 4D didn't exactly go as planned. I ended up getting a client by just bragging about the new camera and talking about all the bells and whistles, which then led to them getting excited to shoot with me. When you think of a camera, you think you can just take it out of the box, you can attach all the accessories to it, hit record, well, turn it on, then hit record, and you're good to go. I learned the hard way that this thing out of the box needed a firmware update, which literally set us back almost 30 to 40 minutes. But on the bright side, I did a great job location scouting, and I brought my client to a beautiful waterfront location, so she was able to keep herself occupied while this firmware update was happening. And thank God I had a laptop and there was an outlet near that I was able to even do this. Otherwise, we would have just had to reschedule the entire shoot, and nobody wants to do that. So the one thing I love the most about the 4D was knowing that there was interchangeable lens mounts, because I was coming from the Sony world and I was about to drop $7,000 on a camera, and the last thing you want to think about is, oh my gosh, do I have to buy more lenses? Lo and behold, I didn't have to. All I had to do was buy a $200 or $300 E-mount adapter. I don't really remember how much it cost at the time, and all my lenses except for the 24 to 105 was able to work beautifully. The second thing I love about the 4D, because DJI did a fantastic job giving us this beautiful hard Pelican style case, it is easy to travel with. It fits in almost every single overhead compartment on literally almost every single airplane. Some planes are smaller, which might give you a little bit of problems, but I have yet to run into that problem, so it's definitely my second favorite on the list, considering the fact that I do a lot of traveling for my clients. On a side note, security will stop you and flag the camera just because they're not used to seeing something of that caliber. But truthfully, this is why the 4D shines for me. I work mostly with online business owners, and most of these individuals are either camera shy or just don't like being in front of a camera at all. And if they are in front of the camera, they want to be in front of it for the least amount of time possible. So by picking up the 4D, I knew that momentum was going to be everything. I can literally go from having this thing on a tripod to picking it up and doing walking and talking shots in seconds without ever letting them lose the flow or the energy of what it is that they're presenting. And that's the one thing that matters the most to me, because my clients are not movie stars, even though I film them like movie stars. But there was a point where I did worry about whether my shots were going to be too smooth all the time, because I am picking up a camera with a built-in gimbal. And we already know that not every story is meant to be told in this smooth cinematic way. But that's when I discovered the M button on the top handle, which essentially puts your camera in handheld mode. Unfortunately though, it is shaky as hell, and you really gotta be intentional with what it is that you're shooting, because it literally looks like an earthquake is happening in your footage. I'm still trying to get the hang of things. Maybe there's something that I'm missing in the settings, which you can kind of dial in and customize how much shakiness you really want. So if anybody out there has already figured this out, please feel free to drop it in the comments below, because your boy needs some help. One of the biggest features that drew me into this camera was the chicken head, but I'm not going to go too far into detail about why this was important to me because there's already so many videos out there that you can go research yourself to see what it is all about. But what I can tell you is that even though this was a great benefit and feature for me, even a year later or within that year period that I've had this camera, I've maybe used it 10% of the time. It's almost like how my wife yells at me or gives me shit for investing in self-drive on my Tesla, yet I never use the self-drive. Now, normally when you research cinema cameras, you always hear about how horrible the battery life is. In this instance, it's kind of the same. But these TB50 batteries last about 2 to 2.5 hours on a full 100% charge. Don't be an amateur and go out and shoot all day with one battery. What I did personally was I went out and I immediately bought 2 other batteries so I can at least have 3. Coming from the Sony a7 III and working with batteries that last anywhere from like 6 to 10 hours, this was something that I got used to, and I needed to make sure that I had that same level of juice when I was going out with the 4D. So you don't have to go crazy and buy 3 batteries like I did, but you definitely should have at least a spare on standby. When I first saw the camera online, I honestly thought the chicken head was going to be my favorite feature. But I actually realized after using the camera, I have 2 additional favorite features, which is number 1, the dual native ISO at 800 and 5000, and the ND filters built right into the camera. In layman's terms, the dual ISO just means that the sensor has the most perfect setting to get the cleanest, smoothest, crispiest, and less noisy image out of the camera as humanly possible. And surprisingly enough, the one thing that shocked me was how much of a beast the 4D is in low light. Now, we always hear how Sony has low light monsters and low light best of everything, but I was pleasantly surprised to see how often, even in like some of the darkest situations, how I was still at 800 ISO and I did not have to bump it up. Where my images came like a little dark was realizing that like I was still having my ND filters on. The 4D has 9 stops of ND. That means you can go from like really bright to really dark depending on the level of light or the sun or whatever is obstructing your shot. And another thing that surprised me was even with certain levels of ND on, I found myself even bumping down the ISO from 800 to 500 because it was still too bright. Now, the one thing I don't like about the ND filters is that they are not variable like the Sony FX6. The Sony FX6 allows you to have smooth transitions going from indoor to outdoor or vice versa seamlessly. You can't do that with the 4D. You gotta cut up your shot and switch your filters. Now you know all the things I love about the Ronin 4D. Let's now talk about all the things I don't necessarily like about the Ronin 4D. Number 1, for its compact body, this thing can get real heavy real fast. And because it's already built like the perfect rig, you're kind of stuck carrying it. So you can either hire a dude that's jacked or go to the gym and get jacked yourself, or you can go the more expensive route and go get something like a tilt-a-float arm, which is an additional $1,800 Canadian, but it looks really cool. Now, the second thing that was a big eye-opener for me is that storage is a bitch. Now I have the 6K version of the Ronin 4D, but even when I'm filming in 4K, I'm still walking away with hundreds of gigs of footage. Also, your typical SD cards won't work. What works with the 4D are CF Express cards, and I personally like to use the ones from Angelbird. Angelbird does come with different sizes. You can get 512, you can get 1 terabyte, you can get 2 terabyte, 4 terabyte. I think I saw a 330 on their website. Now I personally have the 1 terabyte cards, and you want to keep in mind that even with 1 terabyte, if I'm shooting 6K, I have about 90 minutes of recording time, and if I'm shooting 4K, I have roughly about 3.5 hours of recording time. To say the least, these cards fill up pretty quickly, and they're not exactly budget friendly. If I remember correctly, they came in at about $450 Canadian a card, and I own 6 of them. That doesn't mean that you have to go buy 6 cards. You can maybe just go buy 1 4 terabyte card, but just know that you will need that additional leg room if you're going to be filming on long shoots. And because of how much footage you bring back from this camera, it required me to get a server, which ended up costing me an additional $2,000 Canadian. Now, if those additional expenses didn't make you run away with your tail tucked between your legs, this next expense probably is going to be the kicker in your pants. There is no way that you can just go buy a laptop or a desktop at Best Buy or Walmart and go plug in these cards and think that you're going to be able to edit this footage. No way, Jose. Even with the M2 Max Studio 96GB RAM computer and workstation that I have, I still find that I'm being sent to Lagville. So you need to make sure that your workstation is powerful enough to be able to handle this kind of footage. The Mac Studio that I purchased just came in shy of $5,000 Canadian. Now, one thing that's not necessarily a deal breaker for me, because I ended up finding the perfect lens kit, is the fact that the payload on the gimbal still does not allow you to put on whatever lenses you feel like. But I'm not going to talk about the lenses that I purchased in this video, because I'm coming up to the 1-year review of those lenses as well, so you're going to get that in the next video. But one thing that's pretty cool that I found out today is that you can use heavier telephoto lenses on the 4D, but it only works with the Flex Kit system, and the Flex Kit comes in at an additional $1,000 Canadian. I like being really creative on set, and there are times where I do feel like the Ronin has its limitations because of its bulky size, that I'm not able to get certain shots that I want because I just can't put the camera wherever I want. So if you're somebody that creates really cool content or is just looking to experiment with like certain shot types, you probably don't want to get this camera due to the fact that it does not fit in tight spaces. So what once started as an innocent $7,000 investment turned into a $20,000 nightmare and still going. The question is, would I do it all over again? You bet your sweet ass I would. This system has been an absolute blessing for my workflow and the type of films that I create for my clients. And although it does come with tons of limitations, it still gives me enough flexibility to tell the stories that I want to tell. But when you're going out and purchasing a camera, especially one like the 4D, you need to make sure that you really want it. And if you do have a 4D or you're thinking of getting one, leave a comment below because I would really love to hear from you. Till next time, Lefty.